Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Tuesday, October 28th, 2025, and today we are going to be talking about the 2025 elections roughly 1 week out from Election Day. I apologize for the late video. I meant to record this earlier, but today we're going to be talking about all of the elections that are taking place, and I felt that 1 week out was better in terms of how we could talk about it, given that we're going to be tracking it over the next 6 days. I can't believe we're already almost a year after the 2024 presidential election. These things move very slowly, then sometimes rapidly speed up right before Election Day, and it feels like it is right around the corner, the midterms and the next presidential election, but it also feels so distant. Now, in the 2025 cycle, we've been tracking a few races that have been extraordinarily important and some that have actually changed in trajectory since I made my video a month ago talking about the forecast roughly a month in advance of the 2025 elections. Namely, the Virginia Attorney General's race has been one that has been quite interesting, and a new development involved in the state of Virginia surrounding congressional redistricting in the middle of the decade also stands to be reason that we might see some different results than what we might have expected roughly a month ago looking at this state. But we'll also be taking a look at states like New Jersey, the city of New York, as well as California's Proposition 50. A lot of things that matter to a lot of voters across the country, and we're going to unpack that today. Now, the trend lines here, generally speaking, are that the governor's race and the lieutenant governor's race in Virginia haven't really changed much in our last estimation. In fact, for months on end, they really haven't changed either. The governor's race here, Abigail Spanberger, has roughly a 98% chance at winning, according to State Navigate, as well as the fact that every single poll that we've seen released, all the fundraising metrics, on-the-ground campaign work, literally no matter how you crack it, Abigail Spanberger is the favorite. And so as much as there is always still that off chance that Republicans do have an upset, 2021 certainly looked a lot better for the GOP 4 years ago today, and it looks a lot more grim for Republicans across the state, not only on the governor level, but also the lieutenant governor's level, as well as the House of Delegate races, where we see that Democrats are poised to gain 8 seats across the state, potentially up to 59 with upper and lower bounds. But the trend here is that Democrats are expected to do quite well in the House of Delegates races. Republicans, not so much. They're expecting to lose seats, and the Democrats just again have always been in this position where they've been able to go, back and forth with the Republicans in terms of majority here. This will be the most substantive Democratic advantage they have seen in quite some time now across Virginia. I think might be in the 21st century, which would be super notable for the Democrats at baseline, but also allow them to usher in what we're seeing now with this partisan move to try to redraw the maps in Virginia. We'll see if that has an impact on the House of Delegates races, but as it stands right now, Democrats are roughly in the same position that they once were. But as we know, the last time we made a video about this was actually with a member of the team at State Navigate with Chaz Nuttycombe back a month ago, talking about the race and what the outlook looked like then, when Democrats were the favorites to win practically every single race here. The only one that has seen a really notable change and shift in a very short period of time has been this state attorney general's race, where Jay Jones, who has been the Democratic nominee, was tracking for, roughly 90% chance at winning in the state of Virginia, and over the weeks saw that starting to decrease. Now he's at 72%, and based on the political betting markets, which are often more, elastic than some of the other metric points that we use, including polls and fundraising data, the Republicans now have the advantage after recent controversy surrounding Jay Jones's leaked text messages across the state. And so really, we've seen that this, attorney general's race is one that still today, State Navigate has Jay Jones as the projected winner. I think this is something that might change between now and, November, which is a week away, if you believe it or not. Obviously, you believe it. You're on this video for that reason. But, just thinking about what we're expecting, we're not really tracking Democrats having, the easiest time in the attorney general's race. And we could very well see that by the time we reach, November 4th, the Democrats might be at about even odds with the GOP, potentially not the favorites anymore, as almost all of the recent polls that we've seen in this race have shown Jay Jones losing against Jason Miyares, who is the incumbent attorney general in the state of Virginia. Now, the next state we will look at is the state of New Jersey, taking a look at, Mikey Sherrill, and we'll go, run through of what my expectations are for a lot of these races towards the end. But I want us to really just orient, exactly what we're tracking in these states. New Jersey, Mikey Sherrill has been maintaining this advantage in the state. There hasn't really been much hope here for Republicans as of late. The polls haven't really shifted. They're just as good and bad, depending on how you cut it, for the Democratic Party. Really, nothing has changed in the past month. You'll see that some of these data points, for instance, in September and August, showed that the Democrats were up 3 points, 7 points, 6 points, 3 points, 2 points, 8 points. And as we get closer to the election, it's the same thing. 5 points, 7 points, 7 points, 5 points, 8 points, right? So the numbers here really aren't changing. And that means the race itself really isn't changing. The projected margin has remained a constant. The win expectation has remained a constant. Mikey Sherrill is more likely than not going to be the next governor of the state of New Jersey, even though New Jersey is showing quite substantive inroads for the Republicans across the state. In the General Assembly, not much that Democrats need to worry about there. They have a huge district advantage in this state. Democrats are going to easily clear the majority there, but in terms of, where Republicans might make gains, the GOP is expected to gain 1 seat across the state. Not super notable, but certainly can make a difference on tight votes. And so thinking about, the governor's race in Virginia and New Jersey, they're roughly in line with each other. Virginia, being more left than New Jersey feels a little bit weird, especially given the historical context, not only about, the presidential election, which we can say when we take a look. At the last cycle, Virginia voted for Kamala Harris by 5.8, New Jersey was 5.9. They were roughly even, but in 2020, Biden won it by 10, won New Jersey by 16. In 2016, the margin was even more significant. New Jersey to Clinton by 14, Virginia went to Clinton by 5. In 2012, even more so, Obama won Virginia by 3.5, New Jersey went to Obama by 18. And so you'll see here that it has started to converge in a way that makes the 2025 race, actually make a little bit of sense. That Jersey is a little bit more competitive than Virginia, but also one that I think should really worry Democrats for the future if it does end up being far closer than we expect. 2021 was not a great year for Democrats at all. The Virginia race went to the GOP. New Jersey went to the Democrats by just 3. In 2017, though, we did see that New Jersey largely outran the state of Virginia, even though Virginia was in a very similar position than it is today under a first Donald Trump administration. And so thinking about what we can expect right now, New Jersey is also, by the betting markets, expected to be quite good for Mikey Sherrill. Makes sense, right? The only real race here the Democrats are potentially going to lose so far might be this attorney general's race, and we'll have to wait and see if that ends up being our reality in roughly a week from today. The next race I'm interested in looking at is the New York City mayoral election that we haven't really seen much movement on either. The big thing here is that Eric Adams is out of the race and endorses Andrew Cuomo. So it looks like that coalition that, Cuomo desperately wanted 2 months ago is now forming right before the election. But it seems like it's a little too late. Mamdani's lead has only shrunk narrowly. And even then, Curtis Sliwa stands to be the biggest hurdle for Andrew Cuomo being in this race. Because even, again, I don't even believe the idea that all of Sliwa's support would go to Cuomo here. But again, looking at the data, Mamdani's on track for a double-digit victory in New York City. And the data, based off the early voting numbers, also seems to be trending that way as well. New York City's mayoral election is one that Republicans and the independent Andrew Cuomo and Eric Adams at the time were tirelessly trying to defeat Mamdani, who won that Democratic primary pretty, substantively, might I add. I mean, that was a race that no one was saying Mamdani was going to win, but he ended up doing extraordinarily well and won not just by the final round, but in the first round as well. When we take a look at the race here, when we take a look at the mayoral election in New York City, there's no shock in my eyes when I see that Mamdani's still maintaining that advantage, and the expectations are pretty clear-cut. The only narrow, drop here we saw, 4% improvement for Andrew Cuomo, has been this, last-minute support that he has seen from Eric Adams, but even then, it's not going to do much, and clearly, the odds aren't changing tremendously. And these are the same betting markets, too, that I might say, Cuomo has been severely overestimated countlessly on the betting markets, and there's a possibility that it might be happening again. So New York City, Mamdani's probably going to do quite well. It's a chance that he wins, 15 to 20 points, maybe 10 points on the lower end. But after all, Democrats outnumber Republicans in this state by 6-1, and the metrics here seem to suggest that Mamdani has exhilarated a base of voters that traditionally do not vote. Many of them have turned out now. Many of them will turn out over the coming week and through Election Day, to which we will see likely a Mamdani victory in New York City, as the data has been suggesting to us. And so the final race we're going to look at here is California's Proposition 50. It's a very interesting one because I think that, when you look at the races that, Democrats and Republicans have been worried about across the country, okay, there's been a few special elections that have taken place. There's one in December in Tennessee that we can talk about. There's some public service commissioner races in Georgia, where we're going to see if, Atlanta really turns out. But genuinely speaking, the races that we've been tracking, either they've already happened or they'll happen after November. But this Proposition 50 is the first real race where it's going to be a question of, do Democrats in California want to gerrymander their own state further to boost Democratic odds at winning the House in 2026? And it was an initiative that many Republicans believed at their core would fail because Democrats traditionally are the party that votes against gerrymandering. Democrats are the members of Congress who voted unanimously in the House and the Senate, save, Sinema and Manchin, who had holdouts over the filibuster, but still supported the legislation at its core, who you will find they supported banning gerrymandering nationwide. No Republicans did. And so Proposition 50, I think, has been a huge slap in the face to Republicans across the country, especially now as Republicans have announced that they are retreating from the California state, from Proposition 50, knowing that it is inevitably going to fail in their initiative to stop Prop 50. It's expected to pass overwhelmingly. And that's pretty much what the data has been saying as well. It hasn't been good for the GOP, and the data, as we saw, and as we've been talking about on this channel for, 2 months now, has been moving in a direction that has only been positive for Gavin Newsom and the California Democratic Party and Democrats nationally, as this state will likely pass Proposition 50 and usher in an additional few seats for the Democratic Party nationwide. And so as we go through a lot of these elections that, voters care about, Virginia governor's race, Spanberger is going to win that by double digits. Lieutenant governor's race, probably going to be 9 to 10 points, a little bit on the closer side. The attorney general's race, though, I don't know. I think this is one that I need to wait and see right before the election. We'll make an estimation. I think that Jason Mraz probably has a higher than 28% chance of victory today. I think State Navigate might be a little delayed on that front, but we'll have to wait and see, right? I do think that there are obviously people who know this race better than I, but also, too, when we're looking at how the data has trended, if it gets worse, it becomes more clear and apparent that Jason Mraz is probably the favorite. But if it, levels off, it could still be anyone's game. For now, Attorney General's race is probably at even odds. We'll have to wait and see and check in when I do my final prediction in roughly about 6 days. The New Jersey governor's race, I'm more convinced that is going to be quite easy and good for Mikey Sherrill. She's going to do well. I think that she's going to win that race probably by about 6 points. I think that a lot of the data in the recent has shown that it's a little bit closer, but maybe we'll see a change in heart from me in about 6 days as we do that final calculus point. But as it stands today, I would rather be Mikey Sherrill than Jack Ciattarelli in this state. But again, this race is always so dynamic, and New Jersey is really interesting, especially given the last presidential cycle. So things might be weird in the state. But for now, you'd count on the Democratic Party. Same thing in New York City. Mamdani's going to win this race. I don't think that was ever really into question. I think there's been a lot of theatrics around it. But because this broad and expansive coalition that Cuomo promised he could deliver in September, and then it was October, and now it's going to be November, isn't performing well for him, isn't panning out to be this, dominating victory that he believes he would have over Mamdani, Mamdani's going to win this race, and he's probably going to do so by a pretty considerable amount. That's where I feel roughly a week out from the election, and I think that it's probably not going to change in the next 6 days. Proposition 50, likewise, I think this is one that I was a bit more hesitant to say that Democrats had it in the bag in the beginning. They have it in the bag. The GOP would not be making these moves were very publicly. They were deciding to withdraw from the race. I mean, this is just something, a complete and catastrophic failure on the Republican front that they couldn't even whittle away at the margin here. There is a possibility that Proposition 50 ends up, passing by a larger margin than Kamala Harris's vote share in the 2024 election. I don't know if I buy that entirely, but the fact that it remains a possibility really goes to show that there's certainly no reality in which Proposition 50 fails. There's no reality in which you'll find that these legions and bastions of Democratic voters suddenly change their minds on opposing Donald Trump and Republicans simply because the GOP says gerrymandering is bad, because voters know why they're voting for it. Voters know what Texas is doing, what Missouri is doing, what North Carolina is doing. They read the news, they engage with it. Gavin Newsom has gone on an ad blitz across the state. Obama has endorsed it. Kamala Harris has endorsed it. Everybody has spoken on it. I mean, Prop 50 was only really possible at failing if the GOP was able to get some high-profile Democrats in opposition. Evidently, very clearly, they were not able to do so. And even Kevin McCarthy, who tried to come into this to say he would raise $100 million, is now, only raised $7 million across the state. Prop 50 is set to pass arguably easily across the state of California and really go to show the Democrats are not messing around, not in California and not across the country. So as we go through these states, we'll wait and see what happens on election day. A final prediction I will actually make with, predicted margins and such will likely come the day before the election. We're going to have to wait and see, though, as we get into the final 6 days. A lot really can change overnight in American politics. I think for the 2025 races, for the majority of them, they're set in stone and done, but never underestimate the power of a news cycle and the American electorate to change their minds in 24 hours. And we'll see what happens over the next 6 days as we track these races closely going into the final stages of the 2025 election season. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video for you to watch, and then a playlist for my 2025 election analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow.